I think.
You gotta get it right up to your mouth.
Right there.
That'll work.
There you go.
Just don't rock.
Okay,
Oh, that's
we'll start. My name is Larry Bergstrom, and I'm from Valley County, Montana. Pretty much lived here most of my life. I was born at the hospital here a few years ago, and grew up in Opine. Spent my first 18 years there, and then I went to college at Northern in the mid-60s to the late 60s, and got a degree in elementary ed, and taught in Great Falls for 4 years while my wife Jeannie was going to the College of Great Falls, which became Great Falls University, which is now Providence. That's pretty good. And I taught there for 4 years while she went to finish her education and did her internship in medical technology. And then we decided we'd move back here. And her folks had a house with 40 acres, and we bought that, and we've been living in the same house that she grew up in for the last 56 years.
question.
54. Anyways, when I first talked to Lita, she said, maybe mention something about, how people got here, nationality-wise and things like that. Well, my dad was Leroy Bergstrom, and my mom was Ethel Bergstrom, Ethel McEwen Bergstrom. Dad's family, mom and dad, were John and Judith Bergstrom, and they were in Opine from, I think, 1912. They went and homesteaded up there. But anyways, before that, Grandma and Grandpa Bergstrom, Grandma and Grandpa Bergstrom, both came over from Uppsala, Sweden, on the same boat with their mom and dad, and they came over and they went through Ellis Island, then to New York, then to Seattle, and later on, Grandma and Grandpa was just little kids when they came over. Grandma was 7 and Grandpa was 6. And they settled in Chicago. They saved up their money to get all of their family moved over here. And then they went to Little Falls, Minnesota. Grandma and Grandpa just by himself went to Goodwater, Saskatchewan, Canada, and homesteaded up there. And then he went back to Chicago and married Grandma. And while they were this was in Chicago, and while they were in Chicago, my Uncle Norton was born. And shortly after Uncle Norton was born, they moved back to Grandpa's homestead in Goodwater, Saskatchewan, Canada, and they lived up there for a few years. And while they were living up there, my dad was born. So Dad was born in Canada, but by the short way. Anyways, then in, let's see, they homesteaded in Opine, 10 miles southwest of Opine, in the Golden Valley community. And in 1918, their little sister, Hope, was born. So there was 3 of them in that family. But it was kind of interesting that Dad was born in Canada and his folks were American citizens. And when I was a kid, we had lots of relatives up in Montana, or up in Canada. I'll tell you about that in a minute, and every time we went through the border, where were you born? Goodwater, Saskatchewan, Canada. Where are your papers? I don't have any papers. Dad finally started lying to the border agents. Wasn't quite as strict back then. He'd just say, I was born in Chicago. Dad went to the Golden Valley School through 8th grade. And Uncle Norton only made it to 6th grade because Grandpa thought it was just a waste of time to go to any more school than that. And he got to quit at the end of 6th grade. But anyways, my dad, at the end of his 8th grade year, he had to come to Glasgow and take, at that time they took 8th grade exams. And Dad took his 8th grade exam with a gentleman by the name of Eldon Schuster. And Eldon Schuster was the bishop for the Catholic Church in Montana for many, many years. And he always bragged, I took my 8th grade exams with Eldon Schuster. Okay, my mom's parents were Duncan and Jessie McEwen. And I did some research on the McEwen name, and some of them were Mac, M-A-C, Ewen, and some of them were MC, E-W-E-N. And we couldn't figure out when the name was changed or how it was changed, but some of my relatives are MacEwens and some of them are McEwens. I think probably the most interesting one of them all was my uncle Ewan, E-W-E-N, Ewan McEwen. Kind of like Donald McDonald. Anyways, both my mom's parents were born in Ontario, and they moved to North Dakota in 1890 and settled in the town of Dresden. And Mom's brothers and sisters, the 4 oldest ones, were born in Dresden. And then they left Dresden. I think it's in the Red River Valley, so it's pretty good farmland over there. And they left that and came to Lonesome Butte, Saskatchewan, Canada. Heaven knows why. But anyways, Lonesome Butte is about 10 miles north of Opine. And when Mom was 17, before she turned 18, she came down and lived with her sister Nellie Omvig. Some of you may remember the name Omvig. She lived with them, so when she turned 18, she was automatically an American citizen. So, I don't understand how that would work. I would guess that in today's day and age, if that same thing happened, there'd be all kinds of border patrol and all kinds of investigations on what are these people doing. Anyways, Mom moved to Opine in 1931. She was born in 1913. And she moved to Opine before she turned 18. So on her 18th birthday, she was eligible for U.S. citizenship. In 1913, my dad was working for Firmin O'Jewell Firmino Jewell was a big sheep man west of Opine. And Dad was working for him, and they were, had a shearing crew in. And Mom got a job, just come down from Canada, and got a job with the shearing crew in the cook wagon. And she was kind of a gopher, helping a lady by the name of May, I lost it.
Paulson.
Thank you, Janet. May Paulson. That's my sister. She's more worried about this than I am. Doesn't want her little brother to make a fool of himself. Too late. Anyways, Mom was doing dishes and stuff for May Paulson. Well, when they'd get done feeding the shearing crew in the evening, May Paulson would get a stomach ache, and she'd have to go to the outhouse. So Mom would have to do all of the dishes. And one day Dad offered to help her, so he did. He helped her, and when they got done, May Paulson came out of the outhouse, came up, and she said, "Now Ethel, he did a lot of work for you. You owe him a kiss." So she gave Dad a kiss, and a romance started. That's kind of my close family. The next thing I was going to talk about was the Opine School. Schools are kind of special to me because I taught school for 30 years, 26 of them here in Glasgow. And the Opine School, I went there for 12 grades. Didn't have kindergarten back then. But the old brick building is still standing, and on the front entrance, it says 1927. So next summer will be the 100th birthday of the old brick school in Opine, and they're going to have a reunion for it. So I thought that was kind of cool. When I was going to school there, the upstairs was a high school, and the downstairs was grade school. Not just a grade school, it also was the lunchroom, the gymnasium, and the offices. That's where the superintendent was, the clerk. And every class, when I was a senior, every class in Opine had 30 or more kids in it.
Wow.
This year, Opine High School has 3?
Nope.
Am I right, Janet?
3 in high school,
3 in high school.
3 in junior high.
Anyways, in 1954, a new gym was built in Opine, and they built the new gym and put boards over top of the old gym, trusses, and made 2 classrooms above the old gym. So you can tell how big that gym was. And 1961, when I was a freshman, they had built onto the old school, and they built a shop, a leg room, a kitchen, and a home ec room, and a multi-purpose room where we ate. Now, there are I wrote that down too. 40 kids in school,
40?
I think
30-some.
30-some. When I was there, there was right at 300 in the Little Brick Building. And they built a brand new school. The Little Brick Building isn't even used anymore. It's kind of sad, but it's still neat to look at. The new part of the school, this is kind of a funny one. The new part of the school was built, the new high school was built when after I graduated. But I was still going back to Opine in the summer when they were building the new school. And they got it all done, and the contractors packed up their tools and took off. But they left 2 Finnish carpenters, I guess, to do woodwork, and they were there for about 2 weeks. And during that 2 weeks, they ate at the cafe. My folks owned the cafe. And then when they got done, they left town. So Mom and Dad ate the bill for their 2 weeks of food. Our district up there, when athletic-wise, was District 1C, and it went from Opine around to Medicine Lake. And at that time, there was 8 schools in it. Opine, Peerless, Flaxville, Outlook, Westby, Antelope, Medicine Lake, and Luster. And now, I think of those schools, there's only 3 left open, and Opine. And Opine's, it's kind of scary. Not many more years left, I'm afraid. Okay, when I was growing up in Opine, it was a pretty prosperous town. The main street was the main business district, and I wrote down from memory, so I mean, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Going down, as you came in town from Canada, there was the city hall, then the fire station, then the cafe, and at one time, for about 6 years, my folks had that cafe, and it was called the Roy Owl Cafe, for Roy and Ethel. And then there was Turk's Tavern, and Buster Redfield had a gun shop in Uncle Norton's house, and it was right on Main Street. Then the Easy Rest Hotel, which is still standing but not in use. Mint Bar, one of the few businesses still in Opine. The Farmers Union store, and it burned down in the early 70s, I think. But it hadn't been used for years. Then the and then there was a little room in the front of it, and that was the post office. Then the Farmers Union oil station, and I spent 4 summers working there. The club bar, then the Legion Hall, which also served as a theater part-time. The Farmers Union Hall, the Northern Electric Co-op building. Going back across, then you got to the tracks, and going across the street and back down Main Street was the Great Northern Depot, right by the tracks. Arnold's propane, Arnold. And then the Westland Oil Station, Jim's Groceries and Apartments, and that had been formerly the dorm for the country kids. And then the Bakken Theaters, drugstore, and Bob's Appliance. Paws Mercantile, which was grocery store. 6-lane bowling alley. Then the State Department, the DOT shop, and then the Customs office. And the Customs office is right in town, and this border was 8 miles north. But they made it work. There was also a Valley Hotel, which was on the east side of town, and Helixson's Lumber, and the Northern Supply, which was one of the 4 gas stations at Texaco. Also a mechanic shop and a hardware store. So Opine had quite a business district compared to now. There is a Mint Bar, the cafe. Is that it?
Farmers Union,
Pardon?
the elevator,
There's no
No
elevator.
elevators.
or not the elevator, the gas station.
There's the co-op, pro co-op.
Norvell.
Anyways,
Are all the buildings still there, or did some of them burn down,
they
or?
tore down a few. The elevators are both gone, or
All 4 of them are
gone. And
How about like the bowling alley, is that building?
no, Andy Stroman had that, and he tried to sell it, and nobody would buy it, so he sold it to somebody from Whitefish, and they came and dismantled it and took it to Whitefish.
Hmm.
If they have a bowling alley,
Okay. That's enough. Does
What did
anybody
you-
have any questions?
What did you teach at the Glasgow High School?
I didn't teach at the Glasgow High School.
Not the high school. Why did I think that?
I taught 11 years at the South Side School, and there I taught everything, including music, and I'm not at all musically inclined. And then in 1985, they changed from the neighborhood elementary schools, and the Earl School became K through 3. The South Side School was 4 and 5. The East Side School became the middle school, and it was 6, 7, 8, and then the high school.
I don't know why I thought you taught at the high school.
No, I
I
never taught
just
there.
thought you did.
Do you,
Mrs. Seifert?
Okay, when we were talking about you doing this, I asked you about the town of Opine, and you were telling where the town of Opine started, and then it moved, and I thought it was interesting, if you'd like to repeat that.
Well, when Opine started, it was in Opine pasture. Was it Everett Opine? Grandpa Opine, what was his first name?
Yes, Albert. Albert?
Albert. Anyways, they had business district and houses and a well in the middle of the main street. And then when the railroad came with their spur line from Scobie, they had to move the town to its present location. It's about a half mile south and a little bit west. And they moved a lot of buildings from the old town to the new town.
so the old town was closer to Canada?
No, it
The
was
other
south of
direction,
town, yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
The Mint Bar is one of them that was moved from the old town.
Okay.
I did not realize.
And I didn't know that.
I didn't,
What year did Opine become, start,
a town.
established?
Well,
Do you remember the year?
I'm not sure, but
It would be,
my grandpa homesteaded in 1912, so I would guess around there. My mom talked about, they went for a drive from Lonesome Butte, in their horses and buggy.
Oh, yeah.
And they came upon this hill, and they looked, and they saw this town. So they went to the town, it was Opine.
Oh, interesting.
The mommies didn't get them.
So how about the radar base?
The radar base, that's something I should really talk about, because my dad was a farmer, but he was farming my grandpa's farm. And one year, grandpa said, "Boy, you don't have to get a seed loan this year." I sold the farm to the St. John's. And so he was out, Dad was no longer a farmer. But just a few months before that, in 1951, he got a job at the base. And the base,
Was that outside of Opine?
it was, I always said 3, but I think the paper says it's 4 miles west of Old If anybody would like to, I've got a, right here.
Do you remember what happened to that radar base?
They just decommissioned it, and the government, as it does its thing, sold it to some guys. I think most of them were from Scobie, and they came in, and anything that was of any value, they took it, and the rest blew away. And then it became a hot site, and they had to bring in asbestos cleanup and all that. It's quite a mess.
So is there there's no buildings left there for that?
There's no buildings, but it was a radar base. And if any of you like to look at this afterwards, but it had these domes, and inside the domes were big arms went around, and blip, 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 and if something flew, it caught it. And now all that's left is, I know there's one of the concrete,
There's 2 of them.
2 of them.
The EMS
Foundations,
uses one and Northern
But
Electric
they're
uses one.
probably 10, 12 feet off the ground.
Do you know when that opened?
1951. And it closed in, I must have left some of my papers at home.
79 and 80.
But
79 and 80.
79, 80 is when it closed. My dad worked there until 73. He retired in 73.
So do you think, was that a large employer for the county, or how many people worked there, do you think?
There was probably 160, 70 airmen out there and officers. And then I'm sure there was 10, 12 civilians that worked maintenance and motor pool, and my dad was one of them.
So did they have housing there for them?
We had, I think, 12 houses and a trailer court.
Oh,
So that was probably why there was a larger amount
School
of kids, yeah. And then after it closed up, is that kind of when the decline started?
Yeah, it did started, but also the farm equipment you know, the little farms are no longer up there. Geez, every one of my friends, country friends, you know, their dads had a farm, but nothing like what the farms are around here now.
Yeah.
You know.
At one time, Marcos had a business in Opine too,
Mhm.
where Debbie's lives now. Burned.
Interesting.
But this is kind of interesting. After the bowling alley left Old Pine, the government built a bowling alley, 2 lanes, out at the base.
Oh,
And that's all gone too, huh?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing there except those big concrete, I don't know if you'd call them pillars or what, but that's what those big bubbles. And they were a real heavy rubber bubble. I think toward the end they built one that was fiberglass. It's kind of sad for, you know, somebody like me that I go back and I think, oh man, I remember the things we used to do here. You know, we'd sit there with our cell phones and I mean, we were busy all summer long doing silly things, kick the can and all kinds of fun games. And we had television, but it was a white duck eating popcorn in a snowstorm. So we didn't watch TV.
You gotta have some good stories.
Yeah, I was so nervous about this. Lita's one of my kids. She was one of my 6th grade students. And when she asked me to do this, I said, oh, I really don't want to. I'm not a good speaker, I know that. When I went back to school to get my next degree, every time I had to do a presentation for a class, it just killed me. I sweated blood. Because she's such a nice young lady. I said yes, and went home and told my wife, teach me the word no. Anything else?
Yeah, you had rodeos up there all the time. That would
There's
be-
a rodeo every year.
That would be an interesting thing to think about, all
Yeah.
the background of the rodeos.
Yeah. I remember one of the first rodeos. Well, when I was in high school and college, I didn't get to go to the rodeos because I had a job at the gas station. And Frankie Vallis, he thought he might sell some gas, so Larry worked. While everybody else was down with rodeo.
Tell them what
Larry,
the
they had
dedication
some
is.
great street dances at the rodeo up there in our younger days.
Yeah, but I was still in bed by 8 o'clock.
Hey.
Tell them about this year's dedication at your rodeo.
What?
This year's dedication at the rodeo in Opine. The dedication this year.
Oh, the dedication. There's gonna be rodeo toward the end of June, isn't it?
It's the last Sunday in June, I think it's the 28th.
28th of June. And they're gonna dedicate that rodeo this year to my brother-in-law, Jim Bailey. And he belongs to my big sister, Janet, who was a big help. She was more worried about me doing this than I was. She kept saying, well, I got this for you.
Maybe you'd like to come and speak. Maybe you'd like to come and speak.
Larry, we also have the old swimming hole where a lot of us young people
I
spend
have that written down here.
some time.
Summer fun, the spring by the dumps. Is that the name? Oh, the one out the Poplar River?
We have up the river up there in the pasture.
Yeah.
So talk about what's on your paper.
Okay, some of the things we did in the summer, and one of them was, well, in 1957, I'll tell my age, but in 1957, my mom and dad and my oldest sister and her husband and little Larry went to Detroit to my brother-in-law's folks' place, and got to go to 2 Major League Baseball games too. But anyways, while we were there, just one house down from my brother-in-law's folks' place, there was a family, and they had a swimming pool in the backyard.
Oh my.
And so they went over and took me over and introduced me to their kids. Go get your swimming suit on, you can go swimming with us. So I went and got my swimming suit on, I was standing around the water. Come on, get in here. I said, I can't swim. I said, you're 10 years old and don't know how to swim? I said, there's cold water where I come. And there's no, well, there's maybe a couple now, but there was no ponds around Opine at that time. And I don't know who it was, if it was a farmer or what, but he came into a bog just right by the dump grounds and with a cat and went, made about 5 or 6 sweeps and left, and next morning that thing was just plumb full of water. And that was our swimming hole for us town kids. Oh, that water was cold. I mean, it was spring water. It was cold.
Kids don't,
What?
kids don't care.
Oh, I did. You looked down at your legs and they were red.
So you learned to swim then?
I did learn to swim.
And then did you guys get a pool later, or what's he talking about?
There was never a pool in Oakland.
So the other thing I think that I'd mentioned to you is about the Dementa Beach.
Oh, Janet could tell you that.
What?
About the Dement Beach.
A beach.
It was by Carl Nelson's. And
It was,
I've heard about it, and Mom and Dad talked about it, but I don't know much about it other than everybody went there to picnic and swim, and I think they even was it the events that had a little concession stand there too?
Yes, my dad said he turned a lot of ice cream for that place. And I got a picture, it's about this long, and there's about 50 old cars parked up and people swimming, and it's
See, Leroy grew up about, what, a mile north of Dement Beach?
no,
Where you
just
grew up?
around from the bridge a little ways on the west side of the Poplar River.
Yeah, but where did you live?
Well, I lived on up the river next to the Canadian border.
But how far away? A mile?
Like the crow fell ice when we was probably 5 miles.
Was it that far?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
so is it man-made? I mean, they just dug a hole and it was all of a sudden a swimming place, or
I
what?
think it was just erosion that made a hole there, wasn't it?
It was just in the river, a nice swimming place, and then
Oh, so
when
it's
I
part of the
grew up, we
river.
had a swimming hole in our pasture, and it'd be nothing for 10 to 15 kids to show up in the evening after you'd been hauling bales all day, and always took your bar of soap with you and scrub off and go home and sleep like a log. All the neighbor boys come in, and some of the girls, all the neighbors come in. By fall over, you'd come out, you'd have to stop and pick off the bloodsuckers, but they didn't know nothing.
Ew.
Oh dear.
that spring that the guy took a cat and just went 2 or 3 times back and forth and it filled up with water. There was a guy that worked out at the Glasgow base. It was being built at that time. And he would come while we were swimming and he'd strip down to his swimming suit. He'd climb in there with his bar of soap. Janet, it was Jenna Mae Dahl's brother. What was his name? Thompson?
I didn't hear you.
Jenna Mae Dahl's brother,
Johnson.
Johnson. That's, rather than go home and shower and climb in there, so.
And I didn't realize that that Glasgow Air Force Base was decommissioned before Opine.
Oh, yeah.
I kinda lost it there for a minute.
You know, when I first started teaching here in Glasgow, that was one of our field trips. We would go up, the 6th graders would go up to Opine Base, and we'd get a tour of the base and of the towers with the radar in them, and they'd talk to us about the radar and the little blips on the screen. And we'd get to eat at the mess hall, and we thought that was just cooler than heck. Sure beat hot lunch at school.
I remember going.
You did?
Yeah.
Good.
Larry, I remember the parades which we still have in Old Pine. There's more kids than I can actually imagine ever lived in Old Pine. They're there for half a mile. There's solid kids, it seems like.
Oh, for the rodeo parade, yeah, we'll take the little cars up.
There was 300 kids in the Old Pine School District when I was a senior in high school. There was 92, I think, in high school. And now, 3.
2 freshmen and a sophomore.
Well, Opine had their football team, because when I was teaching in Nashville, Opine and Nashville played a football game in Glasgow, a high school football
That's the
game.
only
and
reason we got a school.
That was a big deal, when we had after we built the field at the high school. Larry, you said your dad worked your grandfather's farm. Did you guys live out on the farm, or did you always live in town?
I didn't, because I'm considerably younger. But they lived on the farm until Marlene went her 1st grade year in town to school and stayed with Grandma and Grandpa, I think. And then they had, what was that? Was it Sunnyside School out there that you went to?
The what?
School.
The school.
Country school. What was the name of it?
Which one?
The one you went to,
Where I went? Golden Valley.
Golden Valley. And then how old were you when it closed?
I went to 1st grade out there.
And then,
Come to town in the 2nd grade, and I had to learn to print because I learned to write cursive in the 1st grade.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my gosh.
Larry was telling me about working at the Royale Cafe. Roy and Ethel, that's his parents, they own the cafe in Opine. And he would work there and wait tables. And he'd get so mad because all the girls, when they waited tables, they got tips. He says, I never got tips, and I was a good waiter.
she brought it up, so I'm gonna continue. We were engaged, I think, it was the summer before we got married, and she came up to, I think, to show me her new car. And my folks said, why don't you guys, there was nobody in town, why don't you guys handle the cafe while we go someplace? I don't know if they went off the base, NCO Club or what. So Jeannie and I were sitting in the cafe, waiting for the clock to get around. enrolls a bus. And Opine didn't have too many people of darker persuasion. But here comes this basketball team off the bus, they were going to Canada, and they wanted to know if we could feed them. Sure. No, I thought they'd have hamburgers and french fries. First guy said, I want a Denver sandwich.